All right, we are back. And today, the reflection within the Daily Vedantic is on the problem. If there is a meta problem, which would be a hip way of saying it today, or an underlying problem, a common thread between any discipline, any religion, any philosophy, the common thread is essentially how do we avoid self-sabotage? It's essentially controlling what we can control to not sabotage ourselves. And what is the way that we sabotage ourselves according to Vedanta? It is through attachment. In fact, I remember chatting with Swami about one of his books, one of my favorite books of his, The Holocaust of Attachment. And I said, what made you write this book last? And he told me he had written so many books about the solutions to the problem, but he had not spent time writing a book and writing extensively on the problem itself. So why is attachment such a problem? Well, attachment is our binding to something in the world, something that Vedanta would say is impermanent. And when you bind to something that is impermanent, then you are bound to that impermanence, whether that is bound to some goal you have in your career where you are attached to making partner. You're bound to that. You are not free. You're attached to having a child. You are bound to that. You are not free. You are attached to finding a spouse, attached to being well-liked, attached to wealth, attached to enjoyment, attached to belonging. All of these attachments that we might have, so much of our reality comes down to what we give our attention to. That attachment, that binding of our attention to something that may be out of our control, but certainly is in this impermanent world, means that we are bound to that impermanence. And anything I just named, wealth, enjoyment, the joy of having a child, all the way to a career goal and milestone that you set out on. Whatever that is, whatever enjoyment you get out of that will be impermanent. There is no cup of ice cream that will give you permanent joy. There is no car, and there is no career milestone. So to bind ourselves to something impermanent, like I said, is to remove ourselves from the freedom to be unbound. A mentor of mine in the startup realm, Naval Ravikant, has a great phrase where he said that desire is a contract with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. We think of desires as things that will bring us happiness. That phrase hits home because so much of our entanglement with a desire is the unhappiness that leads up to it. We think we're happy when we get that desire. But the truth is, Vedanta tells us we are only happy when there's the cessation of that desire. In other words, it's not the thing, it's not the milestone, it's not the moment that is bringing us happiness because we got what we desired. It is the cessation, the moment in which that desire ceased, that brought us happiness. So what do we actually crave? It's freedom. Liberation from that desire or any desire. And every time we put our thoughts towards something or some achievement, we become bound. We become attached. And we are not happy until that desire ceases and until we are free. That is the problem. The 10,000 things we are attached to, we are bound to, are the 10,000 things that stand in the way of us being free. That is the problem. Many of the reflections in the Daily Vedantic will be about the solutions to the problem. But having a foundational understanding of what the problem is is invaluable. And as Swami always says, to have a disease is bad enough. To not know you have the disease is fatal. I hope you enjoyed today's reflection, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Vedantic. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend, to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.